Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Wednesday, December 21st. I'm your host, John June. This guy to my left is Greg Penniman, a.k.a. G-Money, the pride of the University of Rochester. Greg, how you doing today, bro?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Getting ready for the semifinals round. You know, I'm in a couple leagues, so getting ready for prep for that. You know, definitely feeling that Jalen Hurts news a lot right now. You know, but we gotta honestly we gotta push through, man. I mean, there's really no replacing this man, honestly. But you know, we gotta be able to get through. I know a lot of teams, a lot of championship teams that are hurting right now, though, including me for sure.
Yeah, man, we recorded our Monday show probably earlier than we've ever recorded a Monday show ever in the history of Fantasy Football Diagnostics. Which again, we are live multiple times a week, 4 times a week, sometimes 3. But we are available on all podcast platforms, specifically Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. And again, you can watch us live on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, or you can always catch the replay on all those same video platforms as well. But when we recorded that live show on Monday, Greg, we got off. I don't remember exactly how long it was. I think we recorded that show at about like 2 p.m., maybe about like 4, 5 p.m. Eastern, I would say. The alerts start coming in. And as you said, Jalen Hurts is he's hurt. He's hurting.
This is arguably the fantasy MVP right now, man.
The fantasy MVP, the league MVP, potentially. And he's dealing with a sprained shoulder. There were rumors it could have been a collarbone, but looks like all in all it's a sprained shoulder. Based on some of the analysis, the injury analysis, it's possible that he could potentially play through the injury, but obviously it's to his throwing shoulder. So then there's concerns about his effectiveness, and is it going to cause further damage? And the Eagles, having only just one loss at this point, being 12-1, do they just ride this thing out with Gardner Minshew, keep Hurts out for the regular season, and just make sure that he is A-okay for the fantasy playoffs? Or not the fantasy playoffs, the actual NFL playoffs. And I think that's probably the route they're gonna go. So
14-1. They're set, yo.
Oh, sorry, 14-1. I don't know where I got 12-1. 14.
They're so set, man. Oh man, I can't believe this, yo. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible, right? Because the thing about Jalen Hurts is that there, like you said, Greg, off the top, there's no replacing him, right?
No.
Like you're not, you can't just replace the number one quarterback in fantasy, who is by far and away a weekly advantage, because he, like I've been saying it all year, I don't think there's any other quarterback I'd rather have because of how consistently he finishes inside the top 3, right? How consistently he finishes as a QB1. Like, you cannot replace that. All you can hope to do is make up for some of it. That's really it. Like,
yeah,
so
that the rest of your team does well. Yeah,
exactly. And the beauty of it is, Jalen Hurts wasn't somebody you drafted with a 3rd round pick, right? Jalen Hurts was probably drafted with a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, maybe if you got lucky. And, that still hurts. No pun intended. Maybe I did intend it a little bit, but that still hurts. And it's still a blow. And unfortunately, you probably didn't have a backup quarterback all year because
Nope. That's
nope,
me. Man. That's me. This guy.
nope,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. So that being said, if you lost a quarterback, I mean that's the biggest injury that we got. We will be back on here tomorrow live at noon to break down all of the remaining slated games for Week 16. Because obviously Saturday is Christmas Eve. On all the games are on Saturday, so we can't record on Saturday. Plus, want to be able to spend some time with family and whatnot. But so we will record all of those, all of those breakdowns. We'll do that live here tomorrow. But the other piece of news, quarterback related, Lamar Jackson also did not practice today. So looks like he's trending in a same direction that he's pretty much been in, which is probably going to sit this week out there. So fantasy managers counting on Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't. I think that, even if he does come back, like if he were to come back this week, it would still be a little early. And based on some of the stuff I've seen, it might even, if he were to come back too early, it would limit his mobility and his effectiveness, which is like that's Lamar's superpower. And if he can't do that, he's not the same Lamar Jackson, and I'm not sure that I really want him in my fantasy lineups. I don't know if you feel the same way, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Ravens want to risk it unless he's 100%, and I wouldn't see him risking it. Me as a fantasy manager risking it if he's not 100%, because his big play activity, what he does on the field, it has to come when he's fully healthy, passing the ball, running the ball first and foremost, making plays happen.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's talk about some of these streaming options, especially at the quarterback position. And Greg, I hope you are prescribing the listeners some Pepto Bismol with this next stream right here.
I mean,
Talk to them.
I mean, this is what I'm doing right now. Like, it really came down to, a couple guys. Honestly, I'm going with Zach Wilson, man. I'm going with Zach Wilson, going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 10% rostered, coming off a week where he had a great matchup against Detroit, threw 317, 2 touchdowns on 35 attempts, which is pretty good efficiency. Now he's got another good matchup as far as going against a weak secondary against the Jacksonville Jaguars tomorrow night. This is a decision, I had to make and add in, and I'm rolling with Zach Wilson, man. And, going against Jacksonville, hopefully he can get sort of those similar numbers as far as 2 touchdowns and plus 250 yards. I think that would be a kind of a solid expectation for Zach Wilson in this matchup. And hopefully he can, get it done. Get me to the finals, man. Get the fantasy managers to the finals, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, man. Zach Wilson in this one is definitely, the matchup looks great. He got it done against Detroit, so it's definitely within the frame or the range of outcomes that he gets it done again this week. I definitely like this one. I think and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but the only thing is the weather for this game is not supposed to be great. So that would be the only concern there. But I am actually going to go. I thought you would go. I 100% thought you were going to do this, Greg. Like 100% thought you would do this. But I'm going to do it then. I'm going to Jalen Hurts' backup, Gardner Minshew. He's 12% rostered, goes up against Dallas, which again, that sounds like it's a great, it's a terrible matchup. But Dallas allows the 15th most fantasy points to the quarterback position over their last 3 matchups. And this is as good a situation as a backup quarterback could be entering when you consider the weapons are A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, in what's a pivotal game here to shore up the division, shore up the 1 seed against the Dallas Cowboys. And who doesn't want to be involved in Minshew Mania? So let's start Gardner Minshew. Start him up this week. I think he brings forth a QB1 performance.
Yeah, man, that was my other option in my league where I had Jalen Hurts. I put in a bid for both of them. It was a waiver order league, so ended up with Zach Wilson. The first claim was for Gardner Minshew, though. I think that's a easy plug and play. I think for Gardner Minshew, the team around him is just so good as well. The talent still at the receiver is there. I think that Gardner Minshew, we've seen him put up big numbers before in the NFL. I see no reason why he shouldn't do that against Dallas in the divisional game.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll throw out a third option. It's going to seem a little, but like Sam Darnold plays Detroit this week.
He does.
So
he does.
That's one that if you are also in trouble, you're out there, you couldn't get, Gardner Minshew, you have concerns about Zach Wilson and the weather. Sam Darnold is also an intriguing option as a QB stream.
Yeah, I agree.
Greg, tight end, how is this guy not broken the 50% mark yet? I don't know, but your tight end stream of the week, brother.
Yeah, man. Chigozum Okonwu going against the Houston Texans, 31% rostered. Not only is the matchup great, but he's just been trending upwards with the Tennessee Titans. I think no matter what the Tannehill injury that we received, him being possibly out for the season, I still don't think it matters for a guy like him. I mean, he's been very involved in this offense over the last 3 weeks, getting over 5 targets a game, averaging over 55 yards per game as well. And that's a very solid number for a tight end that gets you basically right around that double digits mark. And if he can get to a touchdown, that just makes his day basically a tight end one day. And he's been putting up borderline tight end 1 numbers for the last 3 weeks. So I think this is a great option for the fantasy managers out there at the tight end position, putting up solids. This is consistent fantasy numbers right now. And I think that's steady for what you need right now for people that the Mark Andrews of the world, the top tight ends, not putting up good performances. You got Chico to kind of solidify study that.
Yeah, man, I totally forgot to mention the Ryan Tannehill injury off the top. I guess that was more because fantasy managers aren't looking to Ryan Tannehill as an option this week, even with the matchup against Houston. But Chigo Okonkwo, I totally am on board with this. I mean, Malik Willis doesn't even throw to wide receivers; he only throws to tight ends anyway. So
there you go.
What does it matter that Tannehill is going to be out? I think Chigo's still going to have his role and his opportunities. For me, I'm going to go with Noah Fant.
Yes,
I don't know how many times I've gone with Noah Fant this year, but he's been the quintessential streaming option at the tight end position. And he's 23% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Again, the matchup here is nice against Kansas City. They allow the 10th most PPR points to the tight end position over their last 3 matchups. But the game script here should also allow for more passing opportunities here for the Seattle Seahawks, and thus potentially more opportunities for Noah Fant. And Tyler Lockett is most likely out for this game, which should mean even more targets available as they try to keep pace with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday.
Yeah, Noah Fant, very popular streaming option all year. I'm surprised he's also not close to that 50% mark. Yeah, he should be out there ready to play.
Yes, sir. Greg, what about your defensive stream of the week this week?
Going with a team that's trending up, possibly might make the playoffs. Crazy. Detroit Lions going against Carolina, deep in the bag, 8% rostered. I mean, it's the team that their D line has tremendously improved. With all those draft picks that they've got, at least five straight games with at least 2 sacks. Last 2 games they've had 4 sacks each, and also in the last 3 games they've had 2 of those games they've had at least 1 fumble recovery. They're making plays on that D line. The secondary is weak, but I mean they're getting turnovers, and that's what you need for a fantasy defense to keep you afloat and to create some opportunities.
Yeah, I like this one as well. Detroit's been, they like you said, they've been trending up in the right direction. They get Carolina this week. I believe they get the Los Angeles Rams next week.
Let's see. I think they got Chicago and then
Or Chicago.
Green Bay to close out.
And then Green. Okay, so I was thinking of of another team, but either way, Detroit. Yeah, they've been a solid defensive streaming option. Again, their run defense has tremendously improved. They've just become a team that they start out the year as a team that you could just run on at will,
Mm-hmm.
and they've at this point in the season they've evolved to a team like I don't want to start my running backs against Detroit. Like it's not something that I'm looking to do right now. I'll suck it up if I have to, but yeah, they become a really solid defense. For me, I'm gonna go with the LA Rams, who get to go up against the Denver Broncos. The LA Rams are 31% roster. This one feels a little spooky, but the Rams have a matchup at Denver or versus Denver at home in a game where the close spread is just 2.5. They're my 7th ranked defense on the week, and I think they can definitely provide, some value for those of us that are in need this week.
Yeah, no, this is another team I was looking at for sure. I'm definitely not a believer in the offense, even with Russell Wilson being back. Even though the secondary struggle, I think they could still have some opportunities.
For sure. Now, Greg, let's jump into Thursday night preview. And this is an interesting game here. We've got a 6-8 Jacksonville Jaguars team traveling to New York to MetLife Stadium to take on a 7-7 New York Jets football team. This line or this spread has, I've seen it a few different ways, a couple of different places, but the last time I saw it at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Jacksonville Jaguars were 1.5-point favorites. I think that line has since moved where you can get it at a pick 'em at some places, but I've also seen the Jets be 1.5-point favorites as well. But for the sake of the show and prognostication, we'll stick with this Jacksonville minus 1.5, and the total is at 37.5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the weather here, I alluded to it before. It's expected to be cold and rainy in this game. Winds of 10 to 15 miles per hour. According to Kevin Roth of Roto Grinders, that should impact the passing game here. In terms of injuries for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, he's questionable with the toe. Trayvon Walker and Foley Fadukasi, they are both out of this game. Cam Robinson, the tackle for Jacksonville, he's out the rest of the season with a knee injury. And then for the New York Jets, Jeff Smith is out with a knee injury. Denzel Mims is out with a concussion. Brandon Echols, the cornerback, he's out. Mike White, the quarterback, out with the rib injury, so Zach Wilson gets a second straight start. Quinnen Williams, he is questionable with the calf, expected to be a game-time decision. LaMarcus Joyner, the safety, he's questionable with the hip. He's also expected to be a game-time decision. And then Corey Davis, he is a full participant in practice with a concussion, is expected to go. In terms of the game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover, and I'm going to take Jacksonville to win. It hurts, man. Jets started 5-2 through their first 7. They've since been 2-5 through their last 7. I think, they're 1-4 in their last 5. I mean, it's just been, a tale of 2 seasons for the Jets. Jacksonville, again, similar to Detroit, a team that looked like an easy out to start the year, but have since beat up on some quality teams. And now this Jacksonville team sees what's going on in Tennessee, and basically the sky is falling over there. And they've already beaten Tennessee once. and they play Tennessee again, and I believe the next few weeks here, either week 17 or week 18, they play Tennessee. So this Jacksonville team they're not looking at outside looking in playoffs. They're looking at division.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said here, I think Jacksonville, they win this one. On the Jacksonville side, Trevor Lawrence is in a tough spot here, but I think you can roll with him. I've got him as the QB 12. Probably will move him up slightly, maybe one or two spots, but right now he's still a top 12 quarterback for me, just on the low end of QB ones. Um, I think the example I have is like him or Sam Darnold. I would choose Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence or Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers goes up against Miami. I would probably go Aaron Rodgers in that situation. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence does enough with his legs and his arms, and he's done it in bad matchups before that I think I'm willing to just hold my nose and play him because especially with there's no Kyler Murray, there's no Lamar Jackson, no Jalen Hurts. Trevor Lawrence is a QB1 this week. Evan Ingram has a nice matchup. He's been on a roll. He's a top 3 option for me this week. And then the question comes: Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Which one do you go to this week? I'm gonna have them both ranked as wide receiver 3s. Essentially, I will have Christian Kirk ahead though as a wide receiver 2, and I did kind of outline this on my Twitter, but I do believe Kirk has the higher upside, and this is similar to the reason why I was into playing Amon-Ra St. Brown last week, which is it comes down to the slot snaps, right? Christian Kirk, he's played 76.5% of his snaps from the slot. Zay Jones, he's only played about 32.5% or something to that effect of his snaps from the slot. And like we talked about last week, that's the way you avoid these stud corners for the Jets and Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. They do not follow into the slot. So Christian Kirk being in the slot almost 80% of the time, I think that he will continue to see targets and continue to get open. And then so for I would have him as a wide receiver 2. Travis Etienne had a nice bounce back week last week, 100 yards rushing. Tough matchup this week, but he's definitely in the RB3, RB2 territory for me. For the New York Jets, Garrett Wilson is a wide receiver 2. Zonovan Van Knight, I think he was on the injury report. I don't know, it was weird. He was pulled off, but then he was put back on, dealing with an ankle. Played through the injury. I'd expect him to continue to play, so he's an RB2 for me this week. And then Zach Wilson, your stream of the week. We talked about this briefly, but it's a nice spot with the weather. I think he's somebody I would look to only purely out of desperation, and that only has to do with the weather. Other than that, I'd be all in on him as a potential QB1 in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm also take Jacksonville to cover though, and Jacksonville to win. On Jacksonville's side, yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think Trevor Lawrence. We thought the Dallas matchup was tough. He's had tough matchups before. Baltimore, at home or stuff like that. But he's come through in the last couple of weeks. He's been hot, I think, especially with the number of attempts he's been getting up, at least 42 in the last 2 games. 7 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So he's found a connection with his offense. Definitely a tough matchup, but I think he's a borderline QB1. So I'm gonna roll him out there. Travis Etienne have as a low one RB2. And then the receivers, Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Obviously, Zay Jones has been the hot option, getting people through round 1 for sure, and in the playoffs. But I think they're both around that wide receiver 2 category. And one of them is gonna definitely have a stronger side. I'm gonna just lean towards Zay Jones right now, just because he is the hot option right now. It's definitely wouldn't be surprised if Christian Kirk ended up with the better day in this one, because they've been basically flip flopping all year as far as production. And then on the Jets side, Zach Wilson, obviously, my quarterback stream of the week. Going against Jacksonville secondary, that is vulnerable. It's probably will have the over a little bit. The little points are going to be scored. And Bam Knight, RB2, solid RB2 option. Garrett Wilson, he's also a wide receiver too for me. And yeah, I think it'll be hard. We thought Elijah Moore was going to come through last week. He didn't really come through as that secondary option. Looking for that secondary option is just offense for sure. But I think Garrett Wilson is probably going to be that main guy for them in this game. I think though someone will also pop up for Zach Wilson though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? You get Corey Davis back, so Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. How does that split work out? So it really just comes down to, like you said, Garrett Wilson. He's going to have his. So that being said, let's jump into some of those bold predictions, aka those prop bets for Thursday night. And I'm looking. I talked about Christian Kirk, so that's where I'm going in terms of my prop bet. 60 plus receiving yards is the number that I like. Plus 144. Yeah, I think it should be a decent day there for Christian Kirk running out of the slot. And then I will parlay that. Not done yet, people. I will parlay that. This one feels a little icky. Just because Garrett Wilson has never caught a touchdown pass from Zach Wilson.
Wow.
He's got 4 touchdowns on the season. 2 came in the same game from Joe Flacco in week 2. And the other 2 came in the same game from Mike White in week 10.
Wow.
So is Garrett Wilson going to catch a touchdown pass? And again, it says anytime touchdown score. So technically, he doesn't have to catch one. He could run one in. He can catch one. Somebody else could throw it to him. There's a plethora of ways for him to get in. But it's plus 195. If the Jets have any intention of winning this game, Garrett Wilson, who, by the way, broke Keyshawn Johnson's record for most receiving yards by a rookie just last week.
There you go.
And I believe I think he might be 2 catches away from breaking Wayne Corbett's record for catches by a rookie. And he's 34 yards away from being the Jets' first 1,000-yard receiver since both Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker did it in 2015. Kid's having a year.
Yes.
Prime time, give me Garrett Wilson to get in the end zone at plus 195. You parlay the Christian Kirk 60-plus receiving yards with the Garrett Wilson anytime touchdown, and you are looking at a total of 525, plus 525. So that's bet 100 to win $525. Don't know what you think about that, Greg. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and hear your bold predictions as well.
Yeah, no, I got definitely Garrett Wilson, his over on his prop. It's at 54.5. I have that in mind. I'm parlaying that, though, with a Zach Wilson over his passing yards, 205. I think, that's a solid game, especially if the weather seems to be, holds up a little bit. I think he can get over 200.5 yards. And then I'm going to parlay that as well with Zay Jones' over, which is 45.5 yards. That gives you a total 3-leg parlay of 4 plus 424. So that's what I'm looking at right there. So yeah, it definitely ties in with yours as well. Garrett Wilson though should have a day. if it is just me, poll predictions, those are that. I mean, hopefully these guys can come through for the people, for the fantasy managers out there. Make sure you guys come through tomorrow. Check us out at noon, where we go through all the Saturday games and the Sunday games. There's a couple of them on Christmas Day, but the Saturday games on Christmas Eve. And hopefully, these prop bets come through. Hopefully, we get a good Thursday night football game tomorrow. Check us out and make sure you tune in. From G Money, we out.